Good evening, friends. My name is Adam. I'm the rector here at St. Faith's. It is lovely to have you with us on this Friday evening as we come together for an evening of spoken word and art. Before we begin, I'd like us to start, as we always do, with an acknowledgement that we gather this evening for this celebration on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. May this celebration of the arts and our time together always show our appreciation of this fact. We are excited to be exhibiting tonight the poetry of Dean Powers, one of our members here at St. Faith's, as well as the illustrations of Nikki Katusian, which you will see on the screen behind you. And in the program, you have the set list, as well as more information about each of our artists this evening. We do this sort of gathering, this celebration, as a part of who we are here in this community, because we believe that there is something powerful about the arts, whether they be the visual arts, the spoken arts, or music, that help us to connect with and understand the deep spiritual truths of our lives. And we're always interested here at St. Faith's and at St. Hildegard's Sanctuary at exploring that intersection of art and spirituality. So I hope that you enjoy this evening. I hope that you are able to engage with this and let this evening of poetry and art be an opportunity for you to explore your own spirituality. If you are looking for restrooms at any point, you can find them in our lower hall. There is a stairwell at the back, and you'll just go down the stairs and all the way over to this corner of the hall where you'll find the washrooms. And if there's anything that you need, we will, of course, be at the back to assist. Following the show tonight, I invite you to join us in the entryway for refreshments and an opportunity to speak with both Dean and Nikki. Anything else I'm forgetting? Well, with that, we'll go ahead and begin.
Thank you, Adam. Welcome all here in this intimate setting of St. Faith's Church. And it's an honor to be here, to be able to do a poetry reading and to be with Emily, who's going to join me on a few poems, and also Nikki, whose art is going to be displayed, and she will be available for a nice discussion afterwards to talk about her art and her background. I'm hearing from a friend that I should get my voice up, so we're heard. I'd also like to thank Adam and also Melanie for St. Faith's and the church's intimate setting here. And I want to wish all of you a happy International Women's Day. For you here and also for people online. Hi, Mom. Hopefully she heard me. So let's get started. In the next couple of poems, you will meet two people who are at the center of the plight of the homeless and also the drug culture that we have on the street. And it's an opportunity, I think, to give some thought to that. And also to, later on we'll talk about a tribute to Black History Month, which ended about a week ago, but very poignant, and we'd like to have a couple of points about that. So the first poem, I'd like to introduce you to an individual who has been a person that has experienced a lot of difficulty with finding a home, a sustainable place to live. And the poem is titled The Graduate. Brown walls made of cardboard surround me. Kids gave me some markers and crayons. I decorated the inside with pictures of furniture and lamps. Even a chandelier on the spongy ceiling spread out like a spider web. The floor stained with wine, mixed with a surprise nighttime urination. Still can see the lines of the heart I drew, fading into loss and emotional desperation. Parts of an iPhone lay in the corner after a drunken outrage, awaiting my motivation to do something brilliant and somehow put it and my life all back together. My back is sore from the hard foamy found in a bin outside the yoga studio. The front of my boxes draped with the remnants of an old tent helps keep the rats out. Heavy dew last night, the trash I rifled through earlier, just outside the entrance flat. Mostly cans with bits of food and fruit. I scavenged before the rats could get their chance. It's hot out already, and I'm thirsty. The park nearby has a fountain, but the toilet is broken and the door locked. Thankfully, there's a good-sized bush nearby. It's a fine morning. The heat feels welcome on my back and shoulders, a blast of healing warmth, rarely experienced during the winter here. Morning walkers and runners stroll along the beach nearby, some with masks, strangers to each other, wary of the nasty bug that took so many lives. I wear a bill cap, but I have another, the tassel still attached, black with gold flecks on the edges. Inside, on silver, the image of a gold Celtic cross. I love this hat. I need the cross that's in that hat, that I wore at my graduation before I slipped into this life of oblivion. People stop and stoop down when I ask for change, drawn down by the symbol of the cross and the familiarity of a graduation hat. The bright gold cross stares back at their judgment of me and my audacity to beg for money. The tinkle coin is fine, but it's the greenback of the odd venerated president that sends a tingle up my spine. Look, I'll be honest with you. I buy cheap booze, moldy sandwiches and chips from the park vending machines, my teeth too weak to handle anything than soft food. The booze is harder to get. Everybody's got front door security now. They say I smell bad to boot. I don't have ID. Better that way when the cops roust my nest. If it wasn't for the park bathroom mirror, I wouldn't know what I look like. My age now a mystery. My origins a blur. I do hard drugs occasionally, affordable only from others like me. I don't steal. It's a sin. People don't recognize I'm a Christian. To them, I'm a bum. I'm a Christian bum with a degree in economics. I believe in God, but I struggle with depression. I don't feel good or bad when I drink. I just don't feel, and that feels good. See, I told you it was complicated. I return late to my shanty, hoping it's not knocked down or removed by the city park trucks. Lying on my yoga mat and staring at the chandelier, believing in God is not the cure, but it sure makes it a lot less lonely, knowing that her mystery, her comfort, is with me in the silence, and that's what counts. This next poem is someone who's involved and somewhat unknown with the trafficking of fentanyl. And I think that you'll find that he's astonishingly familiar and unfamiliar all at the same time. The poem is titled Walking in Sunshine. I feel my childhood trauma deep within. A 4-year-old standing at the darkening window, watching a tornado spin. My life at age 8 is in danger. I watched them make love. A younger sister 9 months later. A business failure and then another. Poverty to riches by selling lies to each other. Child abuse until I leave them forever. There's always a way out of the truth. Fake news always tastes better with cocaine and vermouth. With my pooch on a tether, I hear myself whistle. Packages of blue crystal softly in my pocket bristle. Each pill no bigger than a thistle. They wait for me in the ghetto, all in a line. My bag of illusions has brought them all together. For in a few moments, they will feel better, walking blissfully into the sunshine. This next poem, I was sitting on Boardwalk over by Science World at False Creek, and a man with his daughter, who was on a little bike, were having their day together. And I could tell that the man was very sad. And I often fall asleep when I'm sitting on a park bench. I'm not sure why, but I fell asleep, and when I woke, it was because somebody had actually tapped me on my shoulder, but there was nobody around. And I wrote this poem. A flock of angels.
Daddy, where do angels live?
Our conversation rolls gently and innocently forward. She on her trike, and me walking by her side. I'm still in a daze and not fully aware.
Have you ever seen an angel, Daddy?
If she was still alive, my wife would have rescued me. I used to call your mommy Angel. There were 3 beautiful souls in my wife's family, all named Angela.
Is Mommy an angel now?
Children grieve differently than adults. It's been 9 months. My eyes still swell with wet sadness.
Am I an angel, Daddy?
I think anyone who has the name Angela automatically becomes an angel. My smiling daughter, pumping energetically, is getting too far ahead. A busy intersection sucks us both towards its nexus. One lost Angela, already torn from my heart. A slight tap on my shoulder, seemingly from behind. Time stops, and the heavens above for one tiny second flare. Faces of a generation of Angelas appear. Then her presence, her smell, a whisper, be aware. Slow down, Angela. We have all the time in the world. When she looks up at me, I realize that my daughter and I are surrounded by a flock of angels. Old man, look at my life, 24 and there's so much more. Live alone in a paradise that makes me think of 2. Love lost, such a cost. Give me things that don't get lost, like a coin that won't get tossed, rolling home to you. Love Train. Old man, the look in your eyes, me, an old man. face wrinkled and surly, the mirror never lying, stooped and shrunken, your body is dying, old man. The voices inside my head, critical and mean. I see a reflection of someone who has aged far too quickly, lost in a past now forgotten by most of you as I have become sickly, old man. Mornings are hardest. I can barely look at myself while shaving, brush my teeth as fast as I can, but to the family passing, smiling and waving, they see what they see. An old man. I live with my daughter and her husband, my granddaughter, cheerful and loving. I spend most of my time reading and praying at their large picture window, my apartment downstairs. So small, it's frightful. But I must admit, my daughter's cooking is delightful. Every day I watch for the train, the time it passes, each day the same. My rosemary made of olive wood passes through my calloused fingers, the cross in my head, my hand dead center, remembering the places of old where my wife and I would venture. The train is close now and softly hooting, like a heat, shimmering mirage. As the train slows down, the cabooses rear door is opened. I stumble out onto the front porch, excited. I see the figure I've never forsaken, the love of my life, so suddenly taken, forever young. Running to the train, I reach out for her hands and jump. This next poem I actually wrote a year ago. On this very day, I recited it for the 50th anniversary reception for my dear, lovely wife, Jamie. At the time, Ukraine was at war. It was the Gaza-Israel conflict going on. And I thought, it's time to talk about peace. And I wrote this poem for those who rule with impunity, that maybe they would have an understanding of how peace is so important in this world. And maybe some insight as to how peace can be attained. So I titled it The Pendulum Piece. One cannot repel violence by being violent. One cannot stop hatred by being hateful. One cannot diminish the darkness by being dark. One cannot sue for peace unless your mission is true peace. Peace cannot be bought. Peace cannot be sold. Peace is the covenant between all humans. The pendulum of peace is the timepiece of the cosmos. Peace is not our privilege. Peace exists in a climate of truth, trust, and justice. Peace is our covenant with the life force that dances in joy with and within our souls. Peace is a gift and our God-given inheritance. Shalom, salam, nimbaya. Thank you. Jamie and I used to live on an island, Texada Island. And every morning I would go off to this trail that was about 5 miles. I walk every morning. My best friend knows that. And on that trail is an old tree. It's huge. It's hundreds of years old. And many times I would take my troubles to that tree. Yes, I would hug it. I couldn't get my arms around it. It was so big. But it seemed like it would try to communicate back with me. And this poem is about a couple that I met at the tree one morning. It's called The Hikers. On my way through the woods, a young couple I saw, eating sandwiches and drinking root beer, teasingly mimicking a crow, who, jumping from branch to branch, would repeatedly caw. Surely they were lovers, and in awe of the size of the old tree, who, by the way, was looking pretty magnificent, as if preening with glee. I watched as it gleamed in the sun, pleased by the visit of two so very young. I stopped to say hello and to let both of them know that the old tree had lived a long time ago, probably more than 300 years or so. And further I prescribe they make a wish. The wisdom tree your burden will bear, touch the bark and say a prayer. You see, as the two young lovers declared, they had lost a baby not too long ago. I sadly asked whether there might not be another, but the doc didn't know. I looked at the tree and gave it a wink, and by God, if that tree didn't blink. The couple hugged each other and then the tree, and just for a second, I felt a new life spring free from within the rings of the old wisdom tree. On that same island, Texada Island, I don't know how many of you have been there. It's quite a magical place. It's the largest of the Gulf Islands. And it has a lot of old forest, virgin forest. It also has a number of wilderness beaches and a couple of lakes. And the one wilderness beach that I really like, actually they had a commune there in the 60s and 70s that was eventually taken away by the District of Powell River, but where people were living off the land. And you could see why. It was just so beautiful, such a beautiful area. So I decided to write a poem about it one day after I fell asleep on the beach. Shingle Beach. Millions of diamonds dance on the rippling skin of a prehistoric ocean where life is slim. The shallows boast a variety show of a fan club filled with starfish, oysters, and bivalves, all who scramble to the surface when the tide is low. Birds overhead land to feast on those stranded in the heat, baking under the midday sun, competing with a zillion bugs who swarming together endlessly eat. Squatting on these shores are volcanic rocks, who take on honest, even human-like shapes as dusk descends and daylight spreads the shoreline with aerodynamic drapes, coloring the sandy pebbles that dance endlessly under the waves. Seafoam crackles like freshly popped champagne. A fountain of courage is needed to swim fearlessly in this sea, as an invisible broiling current seeks to have some fun with the seals and whales who for millions of years have passed this beach under a dome of blue sky and sun. The night holds little peace for the myriad species, anxiously await predators from the depths, glistening monsters who in the diminishing light of day observe from below while they furtively prey. I watch the setting sun melt into a gelatinous butter of hexavalent chromium, reminiscent of a 3-layer cake that the gods voraciously consume, quenching their thirst on the moist salt waters below before retiring into the kaleidoscopic shell. There's a lake on the spine, the mountain spine on Texarkana. It's called Bob's Lake. I don't know who actually named the lake, but everybody knows it's there. And my neighbor once said, well, it's seeded with some trout, but, nobody really goes up there. It's a little weird. And I thought, well, I'm going to go and check it out. So I hiked up there one time. And that was about 20 years ago, and since they've actually put forestry roads up there. And the second time I went, I brought my rod and some of my tackle, and decided to see whether or not I could catch a fish or two up there, which I would release. And while I was up there, it was so sunny, it was beautiful, and I lay down on the grass and I fell asleep. And when I woke, I wrote this poem. I walk out into the water, my fishing rod in hand. The lake is placid like a dream, mirroring the huge wisdom trees who in the hundreds there stand, as the custodians of all they command. The stillness invades my sense of safety as I wade up to my hip, stepping gently. The trees watch me, seemingly disturbed by my presence. Guardians of their ward's existence, ensuring the lake's untainted independence. The wind suddenly picks up, rippling the water and blowing the branches. Clouds move in, enshrouding the shoreline. My hat flies off as if plucked away by a deep water leviathan. The trees seem to be looming. The trout ignore the bait on my lure, but not before breaking the surface, giving me the eye, so secure, aware of my intentions, aware of my incursion. I cast again into Bob's Lake. The surface of the water is cold. I reel in my line. I feel something large underneath me. No fish is that big, so I've been told. Startled, I lose my balance, fall into the water, rapidly submerging in towards a cave. Aware now of the danger, I panic and sob. I struggle to breathe, pulled down to the murky bottom, where suddenly, face to face, I meet Bob. I did wake up.
Oh, Finny, would you get that cell phone out of your face? Streaming music and Facebook will just continue to jail inside of this place, nor bring you and I any closer to the freedom we seek, the dream that we embrace. Still single at 30, and me, not much more, living in foster care, sheltered, ignored. Our launch we have yet to create, but there is hope for both you and I. We could live together, we see eye to eye. But yet there is no end to this debate. Your wheelchair will fit somewhere in this big universe out there. 1,000 options are ours to explore if we could just think outside the box. Get outside into the mix, build a life of our own. We could accomplish a heck of a lot. Eating pizza and fries in our own pad, a home with bathroom accessibility, far from the maddening stares of people who worship conformity, who kick up dust storms of shame as penance for our so-called deformity. Finney, wake up for God's sakes. Baltimore is just a speck on the map. There are places to go and things to see. How else will we stay sane if we don't push back? Vision is overrated anyway. Even the blind can see. You and I are like bread and butter. We were made for each other. Living separate lives, a horrid bother, and as far as I'm concerned, we just can't accept it any longer. Let's go, Finney. The first step is rolling out that door. Finney, wait up. I'll get my cane.
Lester deserved an applause. This next poem I dedicate to my 93-year-old mother because it's a true story. And it's about me when I was very young, 10. And it's a tribute, it's one of the poems that is a tribute to Black History Month. And I think you'll understand once I read it through. It's called Mr. Williams and the Tree. In the 1950s, when I was about 10, my friends and I had nothing to do just then. It was mid-spring afternoon, just after the school bell rang, so off on an adventure of mischief we sprang, to walk to the very end of the lane, where a gentleman of color farmed and resided, just down the road from the county schoolhouse, where the Underground Railroad a century ago provided refuge for a black family of 3 and a chance of forced survival. The lane twisted with tire tracks deep and dry. I was a little nervous that old man Williams might think we'd come there to spy. It was mid-afternoon and a fine sunny day. The fields on all sides swayed with rye and hay. While walking that road, we stumbled and grumbled. In one rut, I put my foot in right up to my shoulder. We finally saw the little turkey ranch up ahead, 3 or 4 one-level buildings encircled by a large ring of hedge. At the end of the lane, 2 big creatures stood guard, big as bears, with black and gray plumes, smooth and unruffled, bearing regal heads with a big red wattle. Weighing 100 pounds each, we felt outnumbered. It would be quite the dash to get around those 2 without a battle. But then Mr. Williams appeared, speaking gently, his turkey queens backing away as they listened intently. We kids were in awe how they obeyed their king. The whole path opened wide and they became tame. Mr. Williams invited us all into his ranch house, a very old home, not very spacious. On the porch, a ruckus of young turkeys and chickens scrambled about, was evidence that over the course of many holiday dinners would yield thereafter a flock much thinner, no doubt. Now a storm was forming on the horizon, beating out the sun. That a hard rainfall was in the making dashed the hopes of us young. Mr. Williams sensed our fear, knowing a trek back would take a toll. So to allay our fears, he fired up his Model A clunker, bought in 1927, brand new, ready to roll, getting us home safe and sound the go. Back and forth the old jalopy would sway as we rode to my parents' little store just an hour away. We showed up just as the rain was beginning, my parents relieved that the lost tribe was found and grinning. Mr. Williams was welcomed with, "Come on in, it's raining." But he hesitated to come inside for some reason. There were other whites at the tables staring, his black color reddening and deepening. A gold cross swung from his neck as he bent to my size. He handed over a little cash to give to my mom, that a pot for the 4 of us kids he would buy. Now, friends, I was born into the warm hands of a caring black doctor. Dr. Needham, my white mother, ultimately trusted. And though there were other doctors from which to choose, Dr. Needham's the best, Aunt Teresa asserted. Until his retirement, any ailment I may have suffered, Dr. Needham never hesitated to discuss. No color distinction was known to me well into my teens. I mean, what the heck was all the fuss? Innocence is inherited when we are born. God gives to all mankind and to her children love, kindness, and compassion are formed. There is an age when the wisdom of God within weakens as the darkness of heartbreak enters our adult veins and blackens our souls with the venom of racial rage. Though we children would hear the odd racist remark, the N-word and hissing about color would tear at our heart. We brave the elements and put our judgment aside to venture to the turkey farm where Mr. Williams' market grave still lies. It was the 1950s. It's a dark age for those who look to human rights, social justice and freedom for all colors, not just whites. Equality, yet a dream, the arc of the universe painfully unfolding, but never a foul word against Mr. Williams, or from my folks, there'd be a scolding. In my 10-year-old eyes, Mr. Williams was the turkey king, lived on his own farm, where there he was free to live to the end of his days with dignity. In my youthful mind, he was the eye of the storm against bigotry. Another tribute to Black History Month, as soon as I hydrate a bit. How are you doing back there, Nikki?
I'm doing good.
Okay, good.
Listen to the rain, 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 listen to the rain. Listen to the rain.
Rain, children.
Listen to the rain.
Rain
Listen
all
to the
night
rain.
long.
Listen to the rain.
Didn't
Listen
it?
to the rain.
Didn't
Listen
it?
to
Oh,
the rain.
my Lord.
Listen
Didn't
to the
it
rain. Listen to the rain.
Didn't it
Listen to the
rain,
rain.
children?
Listen to the rain.
Rain all night long.
Listen to the
Didn't
rain.
it?
Listen
Didn't
Listen to the rain. 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 Black faces against a black moon. Figures of stealth, barely visible, moving like wolves on paths so very slim, that loop through thick forests where the darkness swallows all light. You must know the way or be doomed to oblivion. A long trek ahead as they run towards a new future, the little ones struggling and the babes in blankets. A guide encouragingly advances the progeny forward. The black elders left behind, avoiding camps of menace blurred by smoke, the rain striking down hard on the land, the way to Canaan by the way of Niagara, their desperate plan. The warlords of slavery follow behind, driven by canine energy. Show us mercy, show us mercy. They dare not share openly this hope stored deep within. Is this the road to perdition or to liberty? Is this the end for those of us who never seem to win? Listen to the rain, children, for in it are blessings of renewal and a chance that your new life of freedom will begin. The rain crashes down as they run against centuries of racism, ancestral ghost prodding whose fate was simply to be born. The torches of violence shield the faces of their tormentors, who themselves are tormented by the failures of the antebellum South. Their pitiless grins, a rickshaw of awaiting fate yet to unfold. For the portals of the underground will swallow them whole. The ark of justice will descend with choirs from heaven, and all the untold stories will be cherished in song. And within a century, black roses will bloom, and their children, finally, masters of Camelot.
The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Thank you. Well, I don't really have an introduction for this next poem. It's called Madame Brovsky, but I think it will, in and of itself, you will understand where it's going. But it is set in New York. It's called Madame Brovsky. Those who know her are entranced by her beauty, though she can be quite condescending. East Side, New York residing, has been promising and enlivening. Her poise and style of couture requires a standard of living most of us could not afford. A visit to her apartment, driven by curiosity and a little desperation, Madame's reputation as a medium, her clients report as never disappointing. My mission though quite perplexing, the silent, pre-enact vision of my mother, albeit briefly, was intensely moving. Mother passed away when I was 39. Many years of unspoken animosity lay between, bitter shame inhabiting the mother-daughter bond. She, so proud of my birth, reversed to one of homophobic insanity. Eventually, me and my lover moved 3,000 miles away. Now with her on the other side, I pine for her guidance, wisdom, yes, even love. There should be a deep ocean for it for me now. The medium, Miss Brovsky, imbued to the task, to bring us back together after her visit recent, where she appeared to me in a dream, so real. Rebuke replaced with reunion, even one of repent. The parlor aromatic, strangely exotic, reminiscent of my visit to Prague, dark but comforting. Madame's sudden appearance and disarming smile, inviting. With no further question or curiosity as to my query, with a finger upright against her lip and one hand on her hip, I am led to sit on a large armchair, French provincial in style. An ottoman of the same pattern rests close by. She sits in a plain, straight-backed chair across from me, separated by a lavish Mediterranean ancestral rug. In deep reflection, she stages a metaphysical event. With eyes closed and chilling stillness in her body, wearing a pink chiffon sweater, ink black skirt just above her ankles, her hair severely pulled back, chin high, and hands outreached, I curb my desire to speak as the room begins to lose definition. Madame's face expanding as I lean forward, and in that moment my eyes cannot part from hers, her cheeks trembling, tears pushing through. The visage of my mother appears, speaking softly. Forgive me, Francis. Forgive me, Fran. Forgive me. Those of you who know me, I love cars. I love vintage and classic cars. And my good friend Richard Carlin, who's here, Richard, put your hand up. Oh, come on, a little higher. Spelled me off while he and I drove a 1986 Pontiac Fiero SE to Penticton for the car show, where there was 800 cars. And well, to make the story short, we won second place. And that was pretty exciting. Well worth the trip, right, Richard? Yeah. So this poem I wrote many years ago, and it was from a different time, a little different experience. It's about a car show. It's titled Cobb Road. Shortstop, the dog, holds on tight. A red 51 Chevy truck rolls out, firing resto rod motor smoke. A lovely day well within sight. Others to race ahead on chrome wheels, as if by magic their cars could take flight. The track glimmering, the Saturday morning coffee is brewing. Shadows of mad machines, lined up like tanks, glint back at the sun, everyone in the mood for some racing fun. Birds panic at the roar, folks with coolers make their way, flocks of kids with the old and gray, the young who coo and bray, look for rocks, chips, and lemonade, more than a car show is underway. Heat and clouds bearing dust and exhaust fill the air. Rubber and iron whirling around a track in circular motion. The growl of the mechanical dragons loudly reach up to the heavens, spinning together, their fans screech all day and into the night, under the eyes of the thunder gods, who also clap in delight, their chrome teeth smiling at all the commotion. This next poem is called Redemption Pass. Redemption can be found even at the lowest moments of our life. At least that's what happened here. Crawling out from under the wing, crushed knee, ripped shoe, head buzzing like a hive of bees, endless thoughts as to what she should do. Pulling herself out onto the desert caliche and scrub. First aid would be helpful, but far away, the kit scrunched up against the pepper shrub. Searching around for the pilot leads to a grief-filled pause. She shudders at the body of her partner in crime, splayed halfway in, halfway out, the shattered windows like moths. On the blown door of the getaway vehicle, now disabled, a heavy bag of cash sits cabled to a long cord of steel, unremarkable and unlabeled. Greed floods her system. As she remembers the laughter flying low undetected towards the cleave of the mountain's breast, known to bandits as Redemption Pass. Her flirt with death reprieved, the only thing that matters. The stillness and rising heat insinuates upon her plight and that of her lost partner. The cockpit radio was taken out before the flight. Cell phones useless out here, and at this point, out of sight. Crawling towards the cash in her personal pack. Rising anger at the weight she would need to carry if she were to find a way back. Head down and her body in pain. A copper cross glints in the sand, not far from her grasp. A beacon of God's mercy, perhaps. A voice is conveyed to her by the desert wind, and only once will she hear the message within.
You have a choice, the bag or the cross.
Hanging in the balance of her survival, she scratches the cross up off the ground. The ejected first aid kit, a bottle of water, both now within reach. No longer does she feel alone. She looks up at the shadow pinning the mountains, the chance of a new life, if she can just make it out through the cleave of Redemption Pass. You might have heard the expression old school. I think the older generation probably has, kicked it around a couple of times where younger folks may not know what it means. And basically it means using a means or a way of doing something that has worked, especially in time of crisis. And this poem is called An Old School Thanksgiving. It was 1980, and they called it a recession. A better word for the calamity to follow, the country had gone into a deep depression. Unemployment went sky high, businesses closed down, bank rates rose so much. Selling our home in a market so drought would be a last-ditch decision way out. I lost my job on a Friday after 7 years of work. Labor legislation in those days being pretty weak. And during that time, I married, bought a house, put a little aside in savings, had a baby with my beautiful spouse, another on the way. The pink slip gave me only 2 weeks leeway. My supervisor handed it to me briskly and simply walked away, probably knowing his time was up as well, likely no more than another day. I went home to my wife and relayed the news. I remember the fear in her face as she read my eyes. We leaned on the kitchen counter stunned, looking around at each other in silence, trying to grasp of what was to become of our beautiful place. The 4-year-old pulling my pant leg, giggling at her daddy's spooky face. I phoned my father to get some ideas, but sadly, with him living so far away, he started to worry, making it worse. So gallantly I'd say, "Give my love to Mom. We'll be okay." I ended the call hoping the long-distance charges would not steal too much from my severance pay. But my dad said something that stuck in my mind. "Your grandparents made it through a tough economic time." Granddad rolled up his sleeves, being old school. Found a job digging ditches. Unpleasant, but he got a weekly pay. I looked at old pictures of my family past. One as a toddler in my grandparents' garden. All of us feasting on the healthy repast. My grandma at rest. And Aunt Lorraine eating corn at the table outside, with everyone looking happy in their favorite backyard. Today was Thanksgiving. We felt blessed that our health was trim, dinner finished, the babe in bed, pumpkin pie tummy filled to the brim. With coffees in hand and from our bedroom balcony, my wife and I stood together, watching the crows fly in huge flocks towards their secret destiny. Below them, a patchwork of many unkept front and backyards, as far as the eye could see, a sweeping terrain of work possibility. I looked at my mower at the side of the drive, a few tools that hung in the garage. With goodwill in hand, and if my neighbors could pay, those lawns and gardens I could handsomely revive. So I rolled up my sleeves, determined to pull every weed and mow every lawn that I could see. That's how Sweet Pea Landscaping Services began. The old school way was now our plan. Our little family would survive. Excuse me, my daughter is trying to text me. It's annoying. She knows that I'm doing this poetry. She's the love of my life. She loves to text. So I need to shut this off. I didn't realize it still happening. Her name is Satinder. And those of you here at the church have seen her many times. She has, I don't know how many people on her texting list, but she sure doesn't like the Trump tariffs, I'll tell you. I don't remember in the past few years that my mother ever told me that she had a near-death experience. And I think it was about 2 years ago, Jamie, that she told us the story of having a near-death experience. Jamie and I had been going to conferences for the International Association of Near-Death Experiences Society. And the first conference that we went to, I heard a story wide open, head unable to move. Where's my hand? Where's the other? My blanket has parted, my body shifting in the sandbox. The eyes inside my head roll back and forth. A light show in my brain, deafening in its silence. I rotate upside down. My body looks snow white but serene. A sucking feeling as I go up and out, then nothing. I try voicelessly to scream, but nothing. As I spin about, still nothing. A spirit appears before me and grips my body in an immense hug. I'm flying somehow, so fast I feel her tug. As she reaches down into my soul like she's taking a look, and all the while, I feel the joy to be out of this life. My ego disintegrates in her hand, then hurled like sand into the black Sahara night. I sit stunned at our kitchen table, just 2 days back from Heart Attack Center, my favorite hospital. Yeah, right.
Mark, you've been brooding for the last 2 hours. Our company dinner has just pulled into the driveway.
Where did I go when I was so abruptly hauled away? After I left my body, I felt so alive, I wanted to stay. For some reason, I've been sent back here, but why? Struggling with deep disappointment that I survived. This poem was written for my wife, Jane, just this last Christmas, and I dedicate it to her. It's titled Christmas Under a Star. And by the way, for those who really like Christmas, it's only 7 months away. The infant rests quietly between his mother's knees, absorbing the young woman's body heat. His little seal fur jacket adorned with peregrine feathers. Despite her prayers, the sun declined to suspend its descent, giving up daylight for a romp with the moon. The stars wane against the black horizon as if the threat of their extinction could occur without witness. For it is the blazing star in the east that commands the sky tonight. Cougars, black bears, and bighorn sheep traverse the mountain ridges of the Tetons. Sounds of excitement and anticipation rise within the animal world as the wind swirls furiously around, bringing on wisps of snow a lonely campfire struggles to consume. And for a short time, all lay down together, succumbing to the peace and joy that companions this holy night. Sitting by a wind-blown fire, White Dove reflects on the past 18 years, memories flooding within as she soothes the baby boy, urgently handed from her dying sister to the midwife and then into her arms, bypassing the eyes of the social agencies of woe. Sitting with her nephew, she ponders the future, praying for courage, yet excited at the travel ahead in search of the tiny nation ruled by 3 chiefs hidden in the mountains east. As she looks up at the stars this Christmas night, the star in the east flares even brighter. From a bursting zenith, a celestial rose sets down its petals on the snows of eternity, as the new mother sets out to a new destiny, the Prince of Peace safely in her arms. be so glad when summer's here. This poem is titled The Visit. My cottage lay sturdy against the winds of the sea. The power was lost hours ago, not uncommon here. Only the moonlight from the west acknowledges the cottage even exists. The swell crashes against ancient rocks where sea creatures dwell, usually visible by day, hiding in small caves far beneath the rage of the tide at night. The mist, a nightmare for the ships out at sea. The crashing spews out a small boat like a cork, bow resting on the shoreline just ahead of the pulling waves. A visitor, wet, slick clothes. Shivering, yet he survived. Remarkably unbroken, he appears at the door. From where he came is not immediately known, but his eyes are lit up by luminescent light off the shore, the full moon behind him as he stands on the steps. In his hand a small pack no larger than the size of a small leather sack. His hair wildly disheveled, his beard salted but slick and tidy. His wet hair and face weathered, more from age than from the ocean. I wave him inside, my flashlight silently flutters amidst the wheezing rattle of the window shutters. The wind is resolute that a larger storm may be nearing. There a yellow rosebud pinned into his belt, something a woman might wear, a token of devotion. Not recognizable by family bloodline, thinner than I'd seen him last. Eyes are gray and hooded. His first words of greeting sound garbled, a rush of syllables off the tip of his tongue. He's my brother by adoption, and his present here at my sanctuary not welcome. He follows me into the kitchen, a coffee pot, almost dry, still brewing on the old wood stove. So I look into the icebox and pull each a beer. He wants to talk about her, I can tell. He tries hard to be friendly. It's going to be one of those nights, I fear. Long ago and overnight, he came to us at 5 years of age. I was only 6, and he was taller still. We never got along after he punched me a couple of times, and bullied by him and his friends. We had to attend separate schools. 2 lives could not have been more differently unfolded. It had always been so, even now at age 57. Mom died just 2 weeks past, and in broad daylight in this house was her last, appearing to me for 90 seconds or so. And I swear she just smiled, her sweetness aglow. The news of her death by letter, quite a blow. I've lived in Granddad's island cabin some 10 years now. Never needed to leave but for groceries, some mail. No computer, no visitors, a life undetected. The reclusive son is not likely to go to a funeral where my kid and wife are likely to show. The divorce happened quickly and my role in its demise uncontested. My brother departed the very next morning. The sun was accepting a cloudless re-entry. The storm passed, and the air was freshening. The talk between us siblings had ended late, but gently. He left the satchel on the ledge of the window facing the sea. My mother's letters, a silver cross, a prayer card, and a plastic keepsake. I clutched them all together into my face, a blast of heartache. A deluge of tears brings my grief to a close. A brother I would likely never again see had made the visit I dreaded into one of sharing together, and with him he had brought the symbolic heart of our mother, So I was driving from Bella Coola to Smithers. This was back in the late 80s. And just past Hazelton, there was a blizzard. Boy, did it snow. And the rental car that I was driving decided to lose control and ended up in the ditch. I couldn't make it out. And those are the days of no cell phones. There was nobody on the road. I panicked. I thought, what am I going to do now? Someone had to come by. So I got ready to maybe be in the car for a long time. When all of a sudden I look in my rearview mirror and there's this huge kind of snowball coming down the road with headlights. And I realize it's a big semi, truck, trailer, double loaded. And he comes in, the truck stops near my car, and out pops the biggest man I've ever met in my entire life. And he comes out and he says, "Can I give you a hand here?" Well, he was so big he looked like he could pull the car out himself. But he said, "Get into the cab." He said, "Don't worry about the dogs, they won't bother you." I got into the cab with the two friendly dogs. And he got back in the cab and he called into town to get a tow truck. And on the way to Smithers, another 50 miles, we shared a thermos of coffee. And he told me his story. And I wrote it down for you too. By most standards of men, I'm one of the bigger guys. When I was young, I endured the laughs, the ribbing of other boys and family about my extra large size. Got the nickname Hoss, based on an old TV Western drama about a man who used his bulk and his power of size over the mean and wicked. Sometimes that's what I'd like to do when those bureaucrats from Ottawa bully the vulnerable of my tribal folk. Being a Christian and turning the other cheek was always a hard go, but inside my body lives a big heart. About that, most of my friends know. I like most people. The truck drivers and longshoremen I meet. My home is crowded with 4 dogs. I find animals really neat. I drive the big rigs and have most of my life. My hands big as softball mittens from steering a big 18-wheeler, chaining off and on snow-filled roads that lead north to the Caribou and the noble Peace River. I've had a few tussles with the rigs I drive, kicked a few tires while frozen on the side of the road, big rigs trapped in the tundra more times than I can count, close to a dozen with the trucks sinking in mud, hours at shoveling snow and mud at freezing temperatures to get a loaded 40,000-pound trailer unstuck. Trucks can be hard on a man's constitution, but they don't sass back or run away, despite breakdown frustrations. A few of my lovers have come and go. 2 I tried to marry, the church service reserved, but they were wooed away by thinner young men. Exactly why I'm single, I'll never know. Never a bad word from my ornery machines. When I make the sign of the cross, or when I pray to my lady above for mercy and a lighter burden, both at my job and because of the lovers I lost. When I'm thinking sad thoughts, I look to the St. Christopher medal hanging on the dash. Just in case, I pray to him that I might not crash. Radio, blasting country music until I stop for diesel fuel, for food and a quick sleep at a late night motel. Most of my family are First Nation folk who live on different reserves in the north. Few think of the danger my job might entail. I'm still here lugging goods in the hope that the people of the North in my tribe will prevail. This poem is titled Farewell Dickens. We dry our eyes on the blouses of the poor, the endless journey we together endure, like a bad dream repeated, the running of men and women unsure, if the collective will round them up and force their family into a facility falsely secure. After they have been hidden and deprived, will they spiritually survive, or rise in a future yet made to become the architects of our demise? We all look for peace and a roof over our head. Not a lot when all is said, yet much to be done. Be dauntless in your mission, should you accept it, to leave humanity better off than when and where you find them. From what you sow, you shall reap. In my experience, as cynical as it may sound, God's grace is free, but never cheap. Whether fair or not, and to the youngest of us all, I leave to you this task, to take care of the frail, the vulnerable, the all. And take good care of yourselves, my children, for the road ahead is unwritten, the pages of the past now torn. The soul poet can only imagine, for his time is short. And many opportunities have yet to be born. So act now, for love lost and blood shed cannot be recovered when we are dead. Now, after 19 poems, the audience is likely to declare, "Go home, old poet, fare thee well." There will be another day when we can gather again to share more dreams, more stories, a fable or two. And as is your practice, remember to prepare, reflecting from another dimension, perhaps from somewhere out there, is a deity who rules time and space, our comfort, our mystery, in love with the human race. Thank you. Just a couple words, folks. I want to thank you for coming and for, making a donation, a contribution to the ministry of this church. The budget just came down from the New Democratic Party. Did they give anyone on social assistance an increase? No. Did they give the disabled an increase? No. Did they give the rich more? Yes. Churches like this are on the front line of helping the houseless, people who are destitute, those who are having a very hard time with food insecurity, and just making it through life. Thank you for coming and being here.
Where's Pam?
Hey, Pam,
Pam?
those are for you.
So everyone, we'd love you to stay, of course, and to have refreshments, some food, and we would, Vicki and I and Emily would love to talk to you. Oh, by the way, I have 10 of my first books, She So Loved the World, and they're $20 a piece, and that goes directly to the church, to this, to their mission with the homeless here. So if you'd like that, to buy one, I will sign it for you, and we'll do that in a few minutes. Thank you.